Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to our community. It feels like it's been a long time since I've been here. Take a month off and you kind of lose track of how you do this type of thing. But welcome back to our community. It's great to be here. You know, I was thinking before the show, Troy, about how crazy our lives are and how full this world is of uncertainties in our lives. And it's so easy to get distracted by all of that. But this week in Kim's article for the I've Decided community, she talked about the power of being certain, right? And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to help you understand and invest positively into how to be certain about things that are going to help you be successful in life. But before we get into the conversation, Troy, thanks for being here today. So everybody with me today is Troy Alexander. Troy is the Director of Business Development for Solvera Health. Did I say that right?
Solvera Health.
Solvera Health?
Solvera Health.
So why don't you, all of the I've Decided community knows who Troy is because I hear you talk all the time, but there may be somebody out there listening who doesn't know either one of us. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, and what you do, and then we'll dig into this conversation about being certain.
Awesome. Glad to be here today.
It's great to have you here.
Yes. I have my background here grew up still in the process of growing up.
Sure, we all are.
Spent most of my last probably 25 years, not coming from an education background, barely got out of high school. And I spent a lot of time working on me.
Yeah.
That's been my university. But I've always, had a passion for helping people in the work that I did. And, there's been times where there's been some, uncertainty in the past.
For sure.
And, along the way, I was fortunate to get turned on to or exposed to personal growth and development.
Yeah.
And went from working 3 jobs for almost 4 years. Decided to get my insurance license. Eventually, after 18 months, left 3 jobs and became full-time as a financial advisor.
Yeah.
And, it was just during those times, of things not working out or not as favorable, it's like you can either, pick the path of frustration. You can look at the negative, or you can feed off the positive.
Right.
Unfortunately, over time, with a lot of, training and reading and continuing to work, I worked out of that, and spent 23 years doing that. Loved it. Had a big client base. I was a partner in a firm. And, there was a situation that happened with the partners.
Okay.
And I chose to leave.
Exit, yeah.
Like, what am I going to do now? And here again, going back to some, principles, some rocks, some foundations that, principles never change, Andy, you know that.
Right, sure.
And, recently I spent 13 years I partnered with a nutrition and wellness company. And then 4 months ago, I became the, Director of Business Development with Solvera Health and, out there making a difference.
Right.
There's an alignment for what I've been doing for the last 13 and a half years. And even my daughter, she questioned me. She goes, "Dad, why did they hire you? You barely got out of high school.
Yeah.
You never went to college. You have no medical background." But I said, "Sweetie, I am certain because of the relationships that I built over time." And that's what we've done, just connecting people and helping.
And that's what you're doing for Solvera, right?
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Connecting them to the business community. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining me. And I failed to introduce myself, which is pretty important, I think, right? Let people know who's this guy in the checkered blue shirt. I'm Andy Thornton. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Peoria Family YMCA, and I'm the host of our community. And we're excited to get into this discussion today about, Kim wrote a really good article. She always writes a really good article.
Absolutely.
But 15 positive things in your life that you can be certain of. And I love the way that she framed it around just positivity. Because there's a lot of things we can be certain about, and there's a lot of negative things that we can be certain about. But we've got to stay focused on the positive in order for us to achieve success in our life. If we dwell in the negative, that just sucks the energy out of us, sucks the life right out of us. And we want to help people through this conversation lean into these certainties so that they can grow and develop and prosper and become successful. So I don't know that we got enough time to get through all 15 of these, but let's just jump in and start talking about them and see where the good Lord leads us.
Absolutely.
How's that sound?
All right. One of the things, and it hasn't always, this is a learned skill, and it took a long time, to train yourself, to train your mind. Don't spend any time on things you have no control over.
Gosh, yes.
It gives you power. It gives you peace.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Because if you can't control it, why do you think about it? Why do you engage in it? Why do you bring it up in conversation? Why do you keep it alive?
Yeah.
And, it's not easy being that way.
Right.
Because then you have to make some judgments of who am I going to let into my space. Yeah. And I'm certain that if we don't have that right core group of people around us, we become the average of those 5 people.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. So let's just start there. We're not going to go in any particular order if they have the article out there, but one of the points that was brought up is the importance of connection, right? And that's what you're talking about, right? Is who are you circling yourself with in your life that is supporting you, that is encouraging you, that is giving you the positive energy that you need to be successful? Because there are plenty of people out there, and we all know them, who can do the opposite of that, right? And you've got to be able to make sure that the connections in your life are there to support you.
And for certain, there's going to be some of those individuals that you have to make a decision. And sometimes those are very, very, very difficult decisions. Because often it could be a friend. It could be a family member.
Sure.
That's toxic.
Yeah.
That's draining life out of you. That's sucking energy out of you.
Right.
And that's not always an easy place to be at.
Right.
But that thing that I, mentioned earlier, we become the average of the 5 people, and like, who's in your center of influence? Who's in your sphere? Yeah. Who's breathing and pouring and inspiring Andy to become the absolute best version of Andy.
That's right.
And who's the voice that may be, well, why don't you do this way? Why didn't you do that? And sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to decipher whether or not somebody is there for the right reason, right, or providing the right support. And you have to really be thoughtful in how you evaluate that. This is an interesting conversation because I've been having it with my daughter, 14 years old, entering high school, making new friends, right? And really helping her understand how to evaluate those friendships and making sure that those people are there for the right reasons. Because there are people out there who love you, who care for you, who want to support you, who want to encourage you. It's our job to determine kind of who those people are and then lean into that.
Absolutely.
Right. Because we can easily lean into the negative, and we know that that's not going to help us any. Critically important. One of the other things that was mentioned in the article is the importance of understanding your self-worth. Right. You got to believe in yourself, right, before really anybody else can believe in you, or maybe that's not fair to say, because people can believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. But for you to benefit from their belief in you, maybe is a better way to say it, you got to have some belief in yourself too. Absolutely. Self-worth is critically important.
Well, we can't give away what we don't own, what we don't have. And there's over the last, 13 years of, working with people, coaching people, doing trainings, and it gets back to what you commented, Andy, on the self-worth. It truly does start there. What do you want? What do you see? What do you desire? What would you like to change if you could? What's the roadmap to get there? Have you made the decision? And just like Kim has taught us, put the stake in the ground and pound it into the ground. Yeah. Like, once you know what you want, see what you want, putting that plan together, and it gets back to I am very, very adamant and a strong believer of I am affirmations.
Okay.
I've been saying them for a long time.
Yeah.
But once you identify what it is that you want, and it could be professionally, it could be personally, it could be physically. I said, this is, to me, it's power, and it builds up that self-worth.
Yeah.
Say, I am worthy.
Right.
Say, I am deserving. I am capable, and I am more than qualified to accomplish whatever it is.
Right.
In that, I am certain that builds one's self-confidence and belief in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't do it just once.
Yeah.
They can't just do it for a week and stop.
Right.
Because
It's
we're
gotta be
getting
constant.
home. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be constant.
Mm-hmm.
You go if I went 3 days without doing my little morning ritual, I would notice the attacks and the negativity coming in stronger, because it's like I lost my shield, my chest, breastplate in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great image and a great reality. I know for you, it's to be consistent, kind of coaching yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be consistent in the messages that you provide yourself, and understand that you do have worth. Absolutely. Right. And in order for you to be successful, you got to believe in that, and then allow others to pour in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which I think is so important.
But one thing with the pouring in, we got to do it ourselves.
Sure we do.
Because that's the only true and lasting self-motivation. And so many people wait for someone else to feed them. They wait for someone to recognize them. Yeah. And it's not a happy place when it doesn't show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. What do you think about change?
Oh, I am certain it's always going to be here. And sometimes I am uncertain of what's going to come.
It's always there.
It's constant.
But it's not, doesn't have to be bad.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be bad. I've shared this before, I know, on this podcast at different times. And I keep this, I brought it with me today. I keep this on my desk at the Y. And it's a quote that was given to me a little more than 6 years ago, because that's when I came to Peoria to lead the YMCA. And one of my board members at the Y that I was at before here gave me this quote at the time. And it says, when your desire is stronger than your fear, change is your friend. But when the fear is stronger than your desire, change is your enemy. Right? So you have to embrace change and understand it's constant. It's always coming. How are you going to utilize it to be successful?
I think one of the things that it's always going to be there, it's constant. But regardless of what it is, I'm going to get through it.
Right.
Oh, and some mountains are bigger, and some storms are bigger than other ones.
And I'm going to be better for it if I embrace it and understand that there's something that I can learn through this and benefit from this, and have that mindset going into it. It can absolutely be a difference maker. Whereas the opposite, where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do anything different than what I have been doing because I'm not comfortable with that. There's no growth.
No,
there's just no growth in that. You just kind of a flatline status quo, keep doing what you're doing. And a lot of people live in that, I think.
That, I guess if there's one pet peeve that I, constantly have, Andy, is why do so many people miss seeing the gifts and the skills and the talents that they've got? How do they miss that?
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the self-worth, self-image.
Yeah.
But, it's like so many times, it's like the person that has these things is always the last one to find it or realize it.
Well, I think, and I haven't given this any thought, but you posed the question, and I'm reflecting on the article as I read it this week, that, every one of these things that are laid out here are laid out in a positive mindset, positive framework. And I think for those people that you're describing that kind of never find it, maybe it's because they're looking at these same things, but looking at them through the other lens, from a negative place or a negative framework. And that's limiting, right? And doesn't allow you to grow and to dig deeper and to find those talents that we know are within everybody. We were talking about it offline before we started the show, and everybody has the tools that they need when they come onto this earth, right?
Everything showed up when they did.
Yeah.
it's like, but sometimes it's hard to find what that purpose, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a book that I read a couple years ago. It was The Power and Principle of Vision. What is vision? Who's got it? Where did it come from? What do you do with it?
Mm.
And that's literally halfway through that book when I realized I hadn't been honoring my vision, I hadn't been honoring God's vision.
Yeah.
In that, it was right at that time when I called up, Matt George, who you've had, great conversation with, started working with abused and battered kids, because that was a vision. And sometimes, is what you're doing taking you where you want? Are you honoring just your vision?
Yeah.
Or are you honoring his vision?
Right.
And everybody knows instantly what it is. Because
Mm-hmm.
I call it those inspired ideas and dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
To me, those are whispers from God.
Mm-hmm.
They're in your heart. They're in your mind. Some of them have been in there for a long time. Yeah. And yet we keep denying that or ignoring that. And we're over here doing our things. Not that it's not valuable and value exchange and all that things, but there seems to be something that's missing. And maybe it's asking some different questions.
Okay.
And don't the answers come in the questions?
Sure.
But stop asking yourself the easy questions. Ask yourself the harder questions. Mm-hmm. And just realizing, like we said, earlier, everything showed up when you did.
Yeah.
It's here waiting for you right now.
Right.
But you got to train your mind to see that it's around you right now. Right. And even if you don't see it, even if you can't see it, some people can't, get that picture in their mind's eye. Just believe that it's here. And the more and more that you believe that it's here, I am certain it will start showing up.
Yeah, especially when you take
the
positive mindset and focusing on growth and development and embracing change, like we just talked about, rather than looking at it as a negative, right? Then you start to, I think, find some of those nuggets that are within everybody. And
it's like a combination. Sometimes it feels like a combination trying to get into the vault.
Yeah.
And I see so many people are so much closer than they really realize. Mm-hmm. It's just keep working on yourself. Mm-hmm. We was blessed, and thank you so much on behalf, of Sophia's Kitchen, the YMCA. You guys helped us gather a lot of food for a great cause.
Right.
And it made a difference.
Absolutely.
And everyone can go out and just find one idea and go act upon it.
Right.
And see what happens.
Right.
You're going to grow. You're going to learn some things about yourself. Mm-hmm. You maybe find some where your strengths are at.
You may meet some more people who can be in your circle of influence.
Absolutely.
Right? All of those things become possible when you start to look for opportunities to serve. Yeah. Right. I think that's great. Let's talk about learning. There's always, this is what was written in the article, you can be certain that there is always something new to learn, right? But I know people who think they have it all, right? And we all know those people that think they have it, but we got to understand that there is an opportunity to learn in everything that we do every day. And if we feel like we've gotten there, we've stopped growing. We've stopped developing. And having that mindset of what can I learn new today that's going to help me become a better person, I think is so important. And it's around us all the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. This opportunity right here to sit with you, I've learned new things here just through this conversation, or became more aware. Maybe I knew them and am reminded of them, but there's always opportunities to learn.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think I know that I'm dialed in on, and it pertains to the learning, is I have a binder on my desk, and it's a breakout training of John Maxwell leadership, but it was all scripture based to validate. Yep. And on the outside of that binder, it says, God's gift to me is my potential. What I do with that potential is my gift back to God.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So constantly learning.
Mm-hmm.
in many areas, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
Because trying to stay in balance. Is it easy to stay in balance?
No, there's always distractions.
But I just, once a month, I do a quick balance check.
Do you?
Faith, family, finances, kids, personal growth, development, servant leadership, just like a wheel with the spokes, and where am I at? And I've been doing this for like 5 years,
Wow.
once a month, and it only takes like 2 minutes to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know where I'm out of balance.
Mm.
And the next month it's not there, it's somewhere else. And then the next, because it's
Constantly adjusting, right? Constantly
adjusting.
adjusting. No, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's talk about a couple more of these. And I really encourage everybody out there to look up the article, read it. There's so much more than what we're going to dig into, but these are just some of the highlights that we wanted to share with you today. So another one is our choices, right? You can be certain that you have the power to make choices. We are faced with choices every day and hundreds of times a day, right? And all of those choices impact our ability to be successful, right?
Absolutely. From getting up in the morning to what we do with the first 3-4 minutes.
Exactly. That sets the foundation for the entire day, doesn't it?
And it's like I have to get up real quick, get up out of bed, grab a cup of water, make a cup of coffee,
right?
And I got to get into my quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do that, I notice my days. I wish I could tell you I've done every single day for the last. No, I have not done that. But I noticed it when I didn't get up and make that right choice to get my mind right.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make that right choice to eat something healthy versus something other, because I know later it's going to make me feel sick.
We ourselves are our biggest deterrent to success. We get in our own way a lot. And a lot of times it's because of the choices that we make, right? Mm-hmm. We can choose to learn more. We can choose to embrace change or not, or any of these other things that we talked about. We have the choice on how we want to approach that. That's one of the great gifts that God's given us, right? Is the ability to choose. He's given us the pathway, right? We just have to choose whether or not we want to follow it. And that's probably, if I had to rank any of these as being the most important, I don't know if you could, but it comes down to personal choice. What are you going to do today to help yourself be successful? I think that's important to know that you have the control within you.
I'm sure you've seen this article or read something about it, but just in the things that we've talked about today, I guess adapting or embracing, just getting 1% better. Because sometimes people start to
I've seen that from you a lot of places.
They start to make some changes, they make some different choices.
Small growth.
They're on these, and it's not going to happen all overnight.
Right.
But just 1% in the month, that's 30%.
Yeah.
In a year, that's 365%. That's a whole nother person on a whole nother path.
Yeah, it compounds on itself. You're absolutely right. The perspective is small, incremental change over a long period of time is significant change.
Absolutely.
Right? Significant investment, whatever it is that you're doing. We talked about this one a little bit, but I want to circle back to it. The importance of being certain that small acts of kindness make a difference. You talked about this a little bit, right? And you did this just last week with your Sophia's Kitchen food drive that you collected. And that small act, so you allowed the Y to be a part of that. And I know you allowed Curves to be a part of that. And there was a dozen or so businesses, I think I saw.
27.
27, so even 24 plus. But your idea sparked so much interest. And it's not a small act of kindness. It's a big deal. But it was so simple for us to do it because you had created the mechanism. All we have to do is send some information out to a few thousand people, and then they start bringing stuff into the Y and leaving it on a table, and you come and pick it up. So it was easy for us to do. But that small act of kindness from so many people, hundreds of people participated in that in their own little way, but it's a huge deal and creates significant impact, not only for Sophia's Kitchen, but for all the people that they serve, which is hundreds of people a day.
Every day, 500 a day, 500 meals a day down there.
It's amazing.
I sat out there one morning for about 2 hours and just watched.
Did you?
Just so I could get more connection to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I had a thought and I lost it. How that came to be the food drive is less than 3 weeks ago.
Right.
I made a post on LinkedIn.
Yep. You were telling me about this.
Words, characters, doing for something for someone else that can do absolutely nothing in return for you. And then the next morning, and then I put on in the note there was to go find one person, this act of kindness. I used to challenge everyone, go find one person, just one person, just all of you in the next week or the next month. Find one person that you can do something for that cannot do anything in return for you.
Right.
That's what started it. And the next morning I wake up and it's like, okay, big boy, what are you going to do? You know, you're going to talk it or you're going to walk it.
That's right.
And I think kindness, you know, can be just be a bright light. Smile at people. Say good afternoon. Hello.
Open
how are you doing
today?
Yeah. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Small acts of kindness go a long way.
They have ripple effects.
Right. And when you so let's talk about the benefit of being kind to others, right? So you coordinated this, what amounted to be a pretty large food drive, engaging hundreds of people. The benefit for you to see how that came to fruition is pretty powerful, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's just, I don't pat myself.
No, and that's not what I'm trying to do.
But it was that act of kindness to me helps me stay in balance.
Right.
Gratitude always helps stay in balance.
There's a blessing that comes from doing that work, right?
Yes.
That we receive. We're going out to try to help somebody, but in return, we get blessed so much more. And that's not the motivation for it at all. I know that wasn't your motivation, but that's the reality. You know, I think back to the summer when I went on the missions trip to Honduras with my boys, and you go there with this mindset of, I'm going to go and I'm going to help all these people and feed these kids and provide this vacation Bible school for all of these kids and build this school and all these things. And you realize when you're there and after you leave that you got so much more out of that than you gave to them. And that wasn't the intent, but there's blessings everywhere. And it starts with that heart of service, I think. And the more that we can have that attitude in everything that we do, the better we're going to be.
Absolutely.
So,
you know, every day trying to make a new friend. You know, what they say, if you're looking for a friend, the wording, just go be a friend and you'll find thousands of them. Yeah. Something along that line of that.
Yeah, that's good.
And there, to me, I am certain, without a doubt, there is more love than not in this world.
Sure there is.
There is more positivity that is not in this world. There are more good people than not in this world.
Amen.
And I'm not going to stop believing that. And eventually, you know, I think we'll see more of those things. It's like I always, you know, every time I meet somebody, Andy, all I look for is their greatness. That's all I'm looking for. Their good qualities.
Yep.
And if everyone could just start looking for the better in people, the good things in people, the things that they actually do right and not what they don't or what you may feel they are not doing right.
That's right.
And it's just this whole, I love our great country, you know, and during this last few years, there's been a lot of uncertainty.
Absolutely.
But I know who my CEO is.
Amen. And you're here to serve that purpose that he gave you, right? That's great. Well, Troy, thanks for joining me today. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully it's been beneficial to those of you out there. And if there's one way to I think, to sum it all up is, you know, in order to take these different topics and use them for personal growth is really you just have to have a positive mindset and approach them all. Encourage you to read the article, look into it a little deeper, and we look forward to seeing you next time back here on Our Community.